Here we go. There, we're live. Welcome, all you one user watching. How's it going? I'm getting ready for the holiday spirits. Jack, what do you think? Like the new, you like the jacket? Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. I am actually pumped. Um I like the holidays. And I am definitely not a type of guy because a lot of people out there bah hamburgers. They got some points. They do. They bring up some valid points. Santa and Satan are spelled very similar. Celebration of Nimrod's birthday is December 25th. You know, I think the question is, can I convert my time, you know, instead of hanging out with all those Satanists on that weekend, just maybe go to church and celebrate the birth of Jesus, being that nobody really knows when Jesus was born. So let's pick a day. Hey, instead of celebrating Jesus on a birthday we don't know, let's celebrate Jesus on the birthday that everybody thinks is Nimrod's birthday. That way we can take attention from Nimrod and bring it over to Jesus. I don't know. Maybe I can use some scripture to just be even more of a bah humbugger. I'm sorry, guys. It's kind of funny though when thanks, brother. When you think about this and you look at how many people are so angry at, people that decide to celebrate Christmas and that you're not a true Christian unless you do, I gotta laugh. And those same people are pulling out Federal Reserve notes out of their pocket and paying for bills, using the money of Satan, if you will. I mean, the world's money, and using child slave labor to make their underwear in China and using, come on, come on. I think we have better things to do than be angry about somebody's desire to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ around Christmas. Calm down. Anyway, I would like to have conversations with somebody about that, and because I have a friend who he's a bah humbugger for sure, and he has kids, and I can't wait. He asked if I wanted to come over for Christmas. And I said, "Can I bring a tree?" Yeah, that didn't go over very well. I kind of hung up when I said it, so I didn't have to hear the retort, but you all know what I'm saying. Anyway, hey, XRP holders, I'm guessing we've got a few really good weeks ahead of us. Oh, by the way, uh, next Saturday, this coming Saturday, I'll be in Kauai having a seminar on protecting your land and more. Asset Protection 101. I think people just fail because they don't know the very simplest of things that they can stand on, like how a deed is recorded. So we're going to go nail it for them. We're going to protect Hawaii and protect the Kauai residents because I got a lot of them that are going through it with Zuckerberg and about 30 other billionaires who are using the local police to fine people up to uh, they're it's sad, but people are losing their homes and losing their land, and then they come in and buy it up cheap. So we're gonna go do something about that. We're gonna put a stop to it, and I have no problem in understanding that we are gonna be successful because I understand title. And I gotta tell you something, man. If people understood title and understood who they were, they would run towards it. They'd make the adjustments necessary now. They wouldn't wait. And I want to just say to people, hey, look, don't take it for granted the way that you need to be thinking about the way that you are recording title for yourself, because it's super important that people get their mind wrapped around what title is. And the style to which you record or hold title is everything. What you hold in title on that deed, being land and not air. Those are super important things, and they have jurisdiction over individuals and corporations, and a foundation is neither. They have jurisdiction over territory, and a meet and bounds is neither. And so when you start to, and I'm saying this as a professional. I'm not saying this because I don't know what I'm talking about. I say this, and look, I'm not trying to throw titles out, but I say this as a licensed real estate broker who has done thousands of loans corporately through his life. And I understand chain of title. I understand title better than anybody. I can sit down with title attorneys and run amok around them, discussing what kind of deeds I can or cannot get recorded in the state of California, and for that matter, nationwide. And so it's going to be super important for the people of Kauai next weekend to get their minds wrapped around getting their affairs in order so that they can protect their land. And I can't wait to help them to do that. So if you are going to be in the neighborhood, you happen to be floating across the Pacific Ocean, and you see a little tiny island by the name of Kauai, it's got a letter K on it real big. Just drop on in, say hello, and I would love to hang out with you guys. It's gonna be Saturday this next coming weekend. Get your Hawaii friends there, and it's probably gonna be a full house at a local church there. So I'm pretty excited. Anyway, this week we're just as an update to a lot of people, we have been growing a lot, and we're making decisions on our pricing. Um, I don't want to do this to people. I would rather go the other direction, but when gold doubles its value, you have to pay attention to that for your own purposes, whether it's your own wallet or a ministry or a business. You got to pay attention. You got to make adjustments. This is why a bag of groceries is now $100. In the state of California, you go and buy milk, and if it's decent milk, it's $10 to $20 a gallon. That's something that's very important for people to wrap their mind around, and we got to make some pricing adjustments. So for the next little bit, not sure exactly the cutoff dates. I got to look at how many things need to happen because we haven't changed prices. We've gone down in prices, but we have never had to go up in prices, which we are going to do because the dollar value is dropping dramatically. And I can't help it. I have people to pay. We have a full staff. We have people that we support. And so if you're going to do the living in the private program, and or you need help and you need to start a foundation, or you're starting a business or what have you, and you want proper consultation and you want to know how to do it right, do it as fast as you can. The price points probably will be different in very short order, whether it's a week or a month, I'm not sure, but we're heading in that direction ASAP. Just know that, don't be caught off guard, and tell your friends if this is a decision or a route that they want to take, they better jump on it. We are working on creating a means for people to be able to do this on the very cheap. We're not there yet, but we're close to it. That means we'll be able to get your data, print the docs, and support you through an online platform. Kind of like what we're doing right now. We do a little bit more than just support it, but we're trying to create a full knowledge-based system, full videos, so to where you can ask questions and get automatic responses and be able to see what to do. This Q&A is really for new living in the private members and existing living in the private members, or people that really have questions about wanting to get started, or people that have questions that are going through the program. We have been doing this going on 15 years. We don't have any complaints out there at the Better Business Bureau or anything else. And that says that it's a big statement for us to be able to say that to people, because it's something that is a fair game playing. If somebody has a complaint, they're going to go there and make a complaint. We're going to file a response and be able to deal with it. We do whatever we can to make sure people are handled, and we are a business, but we have a ministerial mindset, and we have to operate. That's one of the questions people say, why aren't you free? Well, um, I always ask them, what do they do for a living? And they tell me what they do. And I say, well, can I go to your house and ask you to do that for free? And the answer is no. It's the same consideration. We're not a church in the realm that we take donations from people. We work for the wages that we receive, and that's everybody that is here. And we do have people on payroll, and we do have things we got to pay for. We are a TV network, HISAdvocates TV. We're on Roku, Amazon, Android, Apple, Samsung, LG. Those things cost money. Every month to stay on it, stay alive, to keep your accounts live on Google, PlayStation or Play Store, Apple. All those things are costly, and it's not something that we can just do. So we're big picturing this. We're thinking down the road for when the structure out there is trying to shut everybody down from free speech, free information, or people get scared to say something. We have HISadvocates TV. We will not cower or shut down. We can be forced to shut down. I don't know how, but we can be forced. I mean, I'm sure they can try to do something, but the bottom line is we're going to stay open. We're going to espouse the name of Yahushua, Jesus. Um, and we're never going to cower from that. We're not going to placate to anything else out there, and we're going to stand strong. And we hope that you guys stand strong with us. But with that being said, first question. Um, Kelly, I got a speeding ticket. Oh, call 1-800-tickets or call an attorney for 99 bucks or 199 bucks. Fight the ticket. If you do it within 3 days, you can do a rescission on the ticket. There are things that you can do to fight a ticket. We do not deal in that realm. If you guys want to name a number, we can hand you a name and number of somebody who can help you out. If it were me and it's been some time, been past 3 days, and I would call an attorney, I would pay an attorney to make the visit for me. 50% of the time, law enforcement does not show up to the hearing. Ticket dismissed. That's what I would do. And the only time that I've had to do that, that's exactly what happened in the state of California. Question number two, I need help opening up a brokerage account for stock trading. Charles Schwab requires $100,000 deposit to open up an unincorporated association business account. What are your experiences opening up stock brokerage account? A ton. Would a private trust be a better solution? Not necessarily, but it can be something you label yourself as. Is there a way my foundation could be considered a trust? It is a quasi-trust. Absolutely, God's the grantor. You're operating as a fiduciary, the trustee, and Yeshua is the beneficial interest of all things inside of a church, inside of that church. So yes, if a trust is irrevocable as needed, will the IRS EIN be tax exempt? The EIN does not need to expressly say tax exempt. I've never even heard of that. The EIN that we do for the foundation that we do is attached to a tax exempt organization. You can get 1099s all day long from Charles Schwab, from any brokerage trading firm. I would recommend Fidelity. I would recommend going as a unincorporated association or private trust, either one. And when you get a 1099, don't worry about it. File it in the shred bin or keep it. Doesn't matter. You don't have to file a return on it ever as a private foundation. Hope that helps. Um, on one of Kelby's recent streams, he is talking about when HISA put in for an EIN for our foundations at the end, it says, and then they notify the IRS. Is this notifying the IRS something HISA did, or is HISA, or is this something we do? I never heard this until recently. I have two short video clips you can watch it. Each is about 45 seconds or so. The first one ends at the 42-minute mark here. Gives me a video link. I appreciate the help. We handle it for you. It's not something you have to do on your own. It's something that we do for you upon the creation of the tax ID number. All is well. The second one is from the 2025 Republic Conference. It ends at 56, where he says it again about notifying the IRS. Yeah, just sorry, I didn't see that. All right. Need a little help. We have a company that we do work for, and they are not satisfied with the way the W-9 is filled out. Line one says below H2O, da 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 da. Give me a name of a foundation. So that is okay. But where you say the type of company, it's checked and you put PMA. Well, he says legal department says that it is not a name of the IRS recognizes and that they needing to know what the name means. Okay, very simply, Carrie, what I would do if I were you is I would um, look under your state for necessary requirements for a business structure to be a PMA. Secondly, I would find within the IRS code because PMAs all the time get registered with a tax ID number underneath IRS code. Then I would have either us or yourself write a letter simply stating to the fact that there is no way what you say is true, being that here on the IRS website, such and such is all that is required for an entity by the name of a PMA, private membership association, to be able to get a tax ID number. Therefore, the IRS thinks the PMA is a lawful entity, and therefore you must accept it as is. Either that or write it, because I've done this with the IRS. A PMA is a lawful description. If you don't like that, you can put private foundation. You can change it up if you don't want to go through all the hassle because it is a private foundation. Um, but you can force the 1099 down anybody's throat. Nobody can tell you what to do or how to contract, and they are not an IRS next friend of doctrine. They're not the attorney for the IRS. So why are they doing this? Why are they standing up so strong? And the IRS is, it's ridiculous. I've gotten probably 1,000, I'm guessing. I have no idea over the last 15 years, just PMAs, not humanitarian foundation, just PMAs with a tax ID number whereby the application is done as a PMA. So I have no idea how else to help you other than to write an national letter to them. And if you want us to do that on your behalf, just post it. We'll get a letter done. Second, we have a notice from the city where it says we failed to file a purchase of city license, do business with the city and for the following liability. We did a job for the city in 2020, which requires a license, and now it was a private customer. How should we respond to this? Um, Nobody is required to get a license, specifically, especially if you're a man or a woman or an unregistered, unincorporated private humanitarian foundation. And so that would simply be a response to them. If you want us to do a letter, of course, we would have to charge you, but it's a simple response that you, in fact, are not under statute or code or required to have a business license. And just because you hired us in our private form and contracted with us does not mean that we needed to be incorporated, we needed to be registered, we needed to have a license with the city. None of that is required in law. And basically, instead of making a statement, you need to ask what the code is that they're using that forces or requires you to be a licensed structural business in their city. And they're going to come back with a code that specifically outlines corporations or individuals, period. It's not going to be you or your private foundation. And there's the position to which you can stand on and just simply write a strong letter in response. I've never had a city, I've had many cities go after quote unquote foundations, never had one successful whatsoever. Period. And do I need to update the IRS if I change the foundation address? Only if you're trying to be nice to the IRS, Jonathan. Otherwise, no. No, you don't care about the IRS. You only care about it to get the tax ID number in advance and upfront. And there's no The IRS is not there for you for any other purpose other than to receive that tax ID number for banking purposes only. So you don't need to notice the IRS of anything when you change addresses, change anything specific within the foundation itself, owners, directors. Well, there is no owner, but directors, again, what have you. The IRS has nothing to do with you guys. Uh, how do you have any idea about what to write when it comes to rescinding the registration and license plates to a motor vehicle? Robert, that's a great question. Um, I really haven't gone after that. I know there's people out there that do it. I know there's people out there that have that help people find the MSO for their vehicles on YouTube. They charge about $500. They get the manufacturer's statement of origin on the vehicle. And I think I remember, it's been a couple years, but I think I remember somebody had a service where they help you with unregistering your vehicles from the Department of Motor Vehicles for that respective state. Um, but I would ask that when you found it, because we don't have a product that does that, because we're not teaching people to drive without plates on their vehicles at this time. I'm not saying it's something we're never going to do, but it's something we don't do currently. But if you ever find out, Robert, send me an email, kelby@hisadvocates.org, so I can investigate what it is they do, and I'll tell you my thoughts on it and before you pick up the package. Because you got to get a confirmation about the vehicle being removed from the Department of Motor Vehicles. You got to get the Department of Motor Vehicles confirming it's in fact been removed. It's not just something you can do. And even though you do contract through a defaulted administrative process with somebody, this is something that you want to confirm because you're traveling around in a conveyance or a car or whatever you want to call it, an automobile. Um, and anything that's registered as a motor vehicle and falls under motor vehicle codes. And so I didn't say anything that has a VIN number. I said anything that's registered. And so we want to make sure we get that unregistered process confirmed with the DMV. But I'd love to find out if you get a good process going because that's the next level for a lot of people. A lot of people, I have a feeling in the next couple of years, are going to be like, well, if you don't get this thing done to yourself, then you're going to not be able to drive. And if you don't get this thing done, you're not going to be able to register your motor vehicle and, all those things. So let me know, Kelby@hisadvocates.org, if you find a service out there that we can look in together. That'd be much appreciated. Um, the LPP states, and I disclose that I am not receiving any privilege or benefit from any state or federal government. My wife and I have received an adoption subsidy from Kentucky for the last 12 years for adopting foster children. A check used to be issued in my name. I recently had it changed to my wife's. Does not want to stop the subsidy. Your thoughts? You don't need to stop the subsidy. Um, okay. Let's say it to you this way. Number one, you're not receiving the benefit. Number two, it is a registered organization. It is the birth certificates, your all capital letters, names, the Inslee's just trust, whatever you want to call it. It's the U.S. citizen. Number three, how you are operating the U.S. citizen is everything on an application and how you receive benefits. So if you're out there filling out applications, and we do this for express purposes of creating a Kevlar, creating a bulletproof vest of approaching living in the private, so people have different layers of sizes of vests. So this is one of those sizes. We want to make sure that we're making a big enough vest for you, and we want to make sure we're adding enough plates and or a thick enough plate for you that will stop any round. And so this is kind of why we say to people, stand clear of this kind of stuff because it's one of those things that where they don't know how to. And I got to tell you something, and it's no offense to people, but they just don't know how to fill out an application. They don't know how to sign it with the word by in front of their name and how to sign it as the beneficial interest or what have you. They just don't know how to fill out government forms, how to make reservations of rights, make adjustments on these forms. They just don't know how to renew these forms. And so I can't, that's the most asked question that I have is how do you sign this? How do you sign that? How do you get this? How do you get that? And so instead of cross the board trying to explain, and I've created probably 100 videos on it, on how to sign different forms. I just post it, just we don't want you to receive governmental benefits if at all possible. Most people aren't. I don't consider Social Security a governmental benefit, but we help people still get their Social Security. And I understand what they say. It's a federal benefit. That's because they, in their own course, converted people who, when they were young, signed up for a program and did a bunch of equity interest and earned interest of that money, putting it into a program. And under fraud, corruption, deceit, coercion, they flipped it to a federal benefit, called it tax now, and stole your money. No, it's just because they took the cash and now they are printing money and giving you something, so they call it a tax and a federal benefit. No. So we still did the work, we still made the money. Um, Therefore, we have an interest. We're just doing an assignment of the interest of our Social Security within to and to the foundation. All the while, we are taking care of our formal removal with the IRS under the revocation of election, notice of status, and removal of signatures, so you can't sign forms or 1040s, meaning file returns on our behalf. So I wouldn't worry about it. I just make sure that when you're putting your name on it, that you understand it's a BC and you're the fiduciary. And so you're holding the office when you don't put the by in front of your name. And so you're becoming in first position as the liability versus putting the word by in front of your name and establishing what you are within that agreement. And so, meaning as a agent for instead of the holder, instead of the liability, instead of the trustee. And so what is important for people, and I'm long-winding this because I don't want you to lose the benefit you don't have to. What's important for people is how they contract and that you understand it's just the contract and how you contract might be brought up later against you saying, see, look at this. You said on this contract you were in fact a U.S. citizen. Well, all the fact, if you notice, what I did here was this. And if you notice, we after we get done with the LPP, what we do for people is we give them a template that they can send to anybody they've contracted with that on an application where it maybe made a request that they were in fact a U.S. citizen, and they we correct the record of those particular applications because we want people to be protected. And so we notice whoever, like you would notice your state of that benefit, that in fact you put placed on the application that you were an American, a citizen of the United States of America, and of the state to which you live on, and that you wanted to make sure that the application was appropriate and that it acknowledged that you weren't, in fact, a U.S. citizen, but you were a citizen of the United States of America. As something as simple as that, and telling them to make that a permanent affixure to your original application, which they have to by law, and where you keep a record of, could change the matter of subject matter jurisdiction being granted by a district attorney coming after you. Again, Kevlar. Anybody that's read indictments, and the attorneys will say, you know, any attorney that writes and goes after somebody for subject matter jurisdiction, meaning a district attorney, they have to go after these elements of proving that you're holding offices, proving you live at a residence, proving you're receiving personal mail, proving they're using the all caps name and holding card titles, proving, you know, and all those things are why we reverse engineered the LPP. So as a blanket statement, I said what I said to help people steer clear of benefits because ultimately, you know, as somebody that is self-governed, we don't need benefits from the state or government. We don't. I get it. Your wife wants it. I get it. You're worried about it and you're asking a question. It's not going to be something I think you need to worry about. I think you need to maybe get a letter outlining that the application that you guys did to receive that benefit and correct the record of your status as being a citizen of the United States of America versus the United States. Some people say that doesn't mean bull crap. Look at warrants and indictments, go read them for a day or two or three, like we have, and understand they all are people holding the office, people that don't understand contract law and the three contract rule, the rules of equity, maxims of law. They just don't get what we have done in the living in the private program, why we remove the element of them being able to prove subject matter jurisdiction. See, we just don't want people to be free. We want nobody, and I'm not dealing hopefully with criminals. Okay. I don't want to deal with criminals. I'm not trying to hide criminals. And I don't think somebody that owes the IRS is a criminal, just to be clear. The IRS may feel different. At best, they may just didn't know who they were and they didn't understand there was a way to elect themselves out. And so on that note, just eventually get to the point where you don't need it. And if you can't, then make sure that you're signing the applications appropriately, the renewals appropriately, have it go directly into a foundation account, and you get a notice letter so you correct the record on the original application. Hope that helps, Tom. Okay, I started living in the private program with my wife. I do not have any tax liens, but about 10 to 12 weeks ago, I was threatened with a tax levy against my house. Colorado Department of Revenue sent me a presentment to pay alleged back taxes. I sent 3 conditional acceptance over a period of 30 days. And then after they refused to play ball, I sent an estoppel and acquiescence, September 22nd, November 12th. Mark as fast as you can, get your hands on the foundation, um, request a rush and request a copy of our deed and get the deed done appropriately, get the foundation done, put the deed in the foundation name, record it as fast as you can. And nobody will be able to put a lien on your house. That's it. Dude, 30 minutes. Okay, next question. Once notarized, do I record the deed at the county office, then transfer the property to the foundation? When transferred, yes. Yeah, because the only time you're going to hold a deed in hand where you do a counter deed is when you're selling it from yourself to your foundation. Um, I wouldn't necessarily do that unless somebody is for sure trying to get out of paying taxes to the county recorder. And just know that you got to fight in front of you, and there's certain things that you got to have support on. We have hundreds of people probably in that position right now that have sold their foundation, their property, and chose to make it a counter deed and not record it. And that is lawful. People don't need to record a deed and counter recorder. They then close the tax account for themselves on the property and never opened up a new account through the foundation. And the reason why it is working for them currently, and I'm not saying people may not have to fight for that and that the county might not do something to try to come against that, but it's working for people because the county has no way to know who to bill. And nobody's coming on and saying, hey, bill me, and here's my recorded foundation deed. And so, but if it were me, I'd get it recorded and not worry about it at this point and take the next steps to remove the property from being taxed by applying for the property to be a tax exempt organization through the county recorder. Now they're going to make you fill out a bunch of stuff. What I would do is look at the questions that they're asking. I would write an affidavit per se, matching the questions, but without filling out their form. And I would attach the affidavit to the form and basically addressing it. I just write across the form, see explanatory statement, and put it on an affidavit format, and just so that they understand that you're doing it under the pains and penalties of perjury. And that way, your answers in that affidavit will become a party to the permanent fixture, the permanent record that they're going to be applying, and then they're gonna do a response. They're gonna say, well, you're not this, you're not that, and it doesn't matter, you're tax exempt. That's the whole thing people got to realize. You don't need to hold church services just because it's a lie. I can't even begin to tell you how many times, well, you need to have a church there, you need to be performing. No, no. You're a 501(c)(3) and you have a pastor living in a home where the 501 owns the home, that property is tax exempt in all 50 states. They can't do anything different on this type of organization. They have to fight it in their mind because they're losing money, and they will do anything to lie, cheat, and steal to try to keep you paying into the program. It just is what it is. My apologies, but we're a bunch of con men. All right, next event. Can't make it to the Kauai event, so if possible, could you record it for the Outer Island HISA members? Yeah, we're gonna record it. We might even go live. We'll see. In your opinion, should the LPP IRS docs be fully submitted before opening bank accounts? Doesn't matter. So the IRS doesn't try to access it for the foundation, or it does not matter. Does not matter. John, at the time that I had opened up my accounts, starting PMA accounts, foundation accounts, way back in 08, 09, somewhere in there, I had a 500,000 in tax liens um, active and nothing. I wish I'd have known what I know now 25 years ago. I'd have been able to protect myself and my family a lot better, but I had to go through what I went through to lose everything to be able to protect you guys. So don't worry about it. Foundation cannot be leaned on by the IRS, period. Question for crypto donations to the foundation from the BC, dual witness, notarized. Yep. What information is needed to be added to the dual witness common law signature? John, just ask our back office for a copy of a document that'll help you. It's very simple. We already have a pre-created form. You just need to insert information and you're golden. I'm cash buying a new house. It's perfect. All cash. Cash will be inside of private foundation B of A account. Beautiful. And I intend that it will be brought under a foundation. Please, any advice or look out for type of tips, especially for paper. I have a buyer's agent, but she is new to living in private. How can I get her set up for success as she works as a buyer's agent? Okay, I don't, you may want to consider a consultation. I don't think you need one. You may want to consider a consultation. The bottom line is, if you're doing all cash, it also depends on the state. It also depends on if it's an attorney state for title or if it's just title state. It also depends on the title company. Some title companies say that we can't record a title insurance policy in the name of the foundation. Bull crap. We have a letter for that. They say the nuances are being able to record in a foundation name, number one. Number two, for title policies. Number two, the style of the deed. When you are all cash, you're the lender, you instruct title, you instruct escrow. So you control the transaction. And we've had many members record in the foundation, get title policies, and are successful. We've had many members that have had pushbacks because of ignorance. And it's just like opening up the bank account. They say, oh, you need to be registered. No, you don't. Same principle. So do whatever you got to do. Become friends with ChatGPT, get ChatGPT to look up certain things, validate and verify everything that ChatGPT says. Ask it to look for Supreme Court rulings, statutes or codes within the state to which you're buying. Look up all statutes and codes that it lays out for you pertaining to what types of entities are allowed to be recorded in that state, what types of entities are allowed that aren't allowed to have title insurance policies attached, those kinds of things, and then have a write a letter threatening whomever's coming against your ability to stop the transaction. We can give you, if you're a part of the living in the private, we can give you a copy of a deed that you can utilize at the county recorder. Super important you get the proper deed done, but also remember something. It's like Kevlar, you know, you may not get the perfect deed done on the first go around. It's okay. If you get title done, you're golden. And the second transaction you do after the title insurance policy is you will perfect the deed and going down there and getting it recorded yourself. But you can consider a consult. You can go to HISAdvocates.org, click on products, click on consultation, and get a consultation. We'll pull your whoever party and I've talked to many attorneys, title attorneys, told them what to do, how to do it, where it is. I've walked people all the way through our deeds with really hardcore attorneys and politely respectfully corrected the record and got them flipped to the model to which we were willing to do business. And they accepted because they know it's lawful. And they are just steered to go one direction, and we're trying to go another direction. Next question. I watched your Republic address, very polished presentation. Thank you, buddy. It's setting up an embassy, diplomatic plates, etc., going to be something you'll be assisting people with setting up. So that was a story I told of a gentleman that was kind of the precursor, one of the godfathers of one of the founding fathers of state citizenship. Godfathers is a negative connotation. I don't want to associate that, but I'm blanking on his name right now. Richard McDonald, and I went to his house. He had an embassy. He had a flag of a foreign country hanging, and he had diplomatic plates on his white Jaguar, and he had a passport he kept right here, and he had full diplomatic immunity. Um, there are people out there, guys, that you can go to. I don't know about today. It might be a little different, but you can go to post 9/11 and you can buy diplomatic passports with immunity for a sum of money from a foreign country, and you are allowed dual citizenship. And I thought, wow, what an idea. And I started thinking, well, what's diplomatic immunity? And he proved it. He got in his car and we went out to lunch, and he went right by a sheriff. He said, watch. And he sped up and went flying by the sheriff. The sheriff turned right, turned on his lights, and got up behind him, turned off his lights, and made a left turn. Saw the console plates. I thought, man, that was a cool moment. I mean, it was pretty cool. I mean, I felt like President Trump and the Beast. I mean, it felt pretty cool. To answer your question, I think when the Republic stands, we're going to have many things like that. But I think people need to be researching and maybe going backwards in time and finding out where some of the work that my predecessor did, which was Richard McDonald, and find out what country he got that in, who his contacts were. I'm sure they still exist to this day. But there's only so many people that can get diplomatic immunity passports for, I think. Um, but I know he was one of them. He had them. He had the plates. He had an embassy. There was no jurisdiction over his land whatsoever. But he was the godfather of state citizenship, and he didn't really have a lot of solutions other than that awesome solution. But I'm thinking, do I want to make allegiance to a country that I don't know and on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? And the answer is it would cost me about 40 grand for my family of four to get it done. And then I'd have to do that every so many years, and I didn't really know, but I thought, man, if I can get plates and make myself a console, and then yeah, that'd be great. What if, and then I paid him $1,000 for all of his data. He didn't want to give it to me at first, but he gave it to me. And I got all of his data for his life work. He put it on a device, and oh my gosh, that was the foundation of taking those case sites and shepherdizing them, and the reason why we have the book today. This book is if you haven't read it yet, man, this is our go-to, guys. This is what every cop, every law enforcement officer, and I say this respectfully, stop dealing with people and calling a state citizen or somebody trying to be one a sovereign citizen and acting like you have full autonomy and authority and that you can rip them out of their car and treat them like a POS when this book says something completely different. I hate to say it to you, but there is no requirement to have a license to drive a motor vehicle. Supreme Court has determined that. So anytime a cop opens their mouth and says to the contrary, they're wrong. Now, does that make the person that is in that car not contracted to that state? And the answer generally is no. That means they will find a reason to get that person a ticket or arrested or something based on expired this, expired that, and unhandled contracts. This is why we do what we do in creating the new agreement. Number one. Number two, we're not doing this to get out of tickets. I'm not doing this to not drive without a license. I hold a driver's license. I'm not contracted, but I hold a driver's license. And if you know what I'm saying, if you've gone through our program, but that may be coming to an end in a couple of years when they try to force certain things upon people in order to keep driving. And the reality is, I'm not going to partake in those things, and I'm going to say no, and I'm going to do the cancellation of the driver's license. I'm going to do the cancellation of all my vehicles in whatever state they're registered in, and get the MSO for anything that I don't already have the MSO, and I will be able to travel lawfully anywhere in any of those at any time. Now, does that mean that the military that is on the streets is not going to know that? Of course, they're not going to know that. So there's going to have to be things that are going to be in place before any one of us go into a military martial law environment or a hostile police environment. Um, because whether you are lawful or legal is one thing. Whether they know about it is a whole nother thing, but it doesn't diminish our status and standing. It's how big of a Kevlar vest can we put on and how big of a castle can we build around our home. That's what I'm talking about. That's all we are saying. We're not saying we are not a wanting to be a great American, a great state citizen, a great part of the greatest nation in the world. We are saying that you, as a United States citizen, have lost and had your rights diminished. We, as state citizens, retain access to the Bill of Rights, retain access to the constitutional protections that the Constitution affords. You, as U.S. citizens, you, as police officers, you, as federal agents, have no rights whatsoever. We, as state citizens, absolutely inherently do. And the creators of the greatest nation in the world and the documents that went with that nation, the Declaration of Independence, which cannot be found in any case law anywhere. That Declaration of Independence is outside of the jurisdiction of the United States. That declaration and us as a people, a body of people, which is what is the word state is comprised of. One of the definitions of state is body of people, state of California, body of people of California. Literally, Black's Law says it, not me. A state, all capitalized, is a community of persons, artificial persons, birth certificates. And people are holding the office of these artificial birth certificates, which is the U.S. citizen, and they're performing the job functions and the policies and procedures accordingly. And if they don't, those statutes and codes that were created for that corporation must be enforced by the policy enforcement officers. That's the game that is being played, period. And I say this respectfully. I'm not trying to come against law enforcement, but you don't know jack when you're pulling somebody over and you're calling them a sovereign citizen. You obviously are a and I'm not trying to fight you here. You've been misled by the FBI, you've been misled by leadership, and you're trying to do nothing more than to contract with people when they don't want to contract with you, and they should not. You do everything under the fraud of emergency lights when there is no emergency. You're pulling people over and issuing tickets for the express purpose of commercial gain instead of community service or helping people. It's all changed. In the 70s, it all changed, became a very, very much business oriented machine. And it's a very big profit center. So don't pretend like you are better, because, in my opinion, the true sovereign citizen is law enforcement agents. You think you're a sovereign, and yet you have no rights whatsoever, and you go against the law, your own law, the oath that you took to the Constitution to uphold our God-given unalienable rights. You guys go against that largely, not all of you, but many of you. I've met some great law enforcement guys who uphold their Constitution. You know what happens to them? They get handed a bunch of BS by their leadership within their own organizations and tell them it doesn't matter. You got to get X amount of tickets written on X amount of months or you're going to lose your job. Hmm. Same principle with doctors and vaccinations. Same principle with many different industries out there. I guess money does matter, but it's really sad in the law enforcement community because you all don't make that much money. And the fact that you're willing to come after people so hard and throw people around and pull them out and treat them like garbage instead of like a human being or a man or a woman over 80,000 a year, 100,000, whatever it is, that's what you're willing to do is stand before God and be judged because of your actions against innocent people all over this nation. And innocent people, I mean innocent people. There are some people that you do protect us from, but largely you're punishing people and you don't need to. And I say that in love, and I hope I'm jarring somebody, but I'm telling you right now, this book unequivocally tells you that what we do is legitimate in law. And being a state citizen is not a sovereign citizen, and it is outside of your jurisdiction 100%. You, by at best, uh, are foreign within respect to this state, this body of people. And I get it. You're seeing people you're pulling them over and they're being angry with you and you've been taught a certain way and you're trying to feel through that. And the first questions that you ask, are you a sovereign citizen? Guys, there is no lawful definition of sovereign citizen. Stop saying it. You sound like a dumbass. Really, you do. Are you a sovereign? You know, you don't even understand. It's an oxymoron. It does not exist. The two words cannot be one. So, and I haven't figured out how to walk on water, so I don't claim to be a sovereign. But the state, the federal law, the Supreme Court says the body of the people, the state, is the sovereigns. Okay. That's why they are self-governed. That's why the Constitution was created, not for them. It was to restrain the federal and state governments from coming against the rights, the God-given unalienable rights of the people. Okay. The Bill of Rights is just a reminder to uphold the God-given unalienable rights and to restrain the people according to the Constitution who are upholding those God-given unalienable rights. And the Supreme Court has over and over and over and over upheld that. So, with all due respect, if you run into, there are some people that are running into people on the streets and they're doing their jobs right. And there are some people on the streets that are trying to be free that have yet figured out the proper way to become free. Number one. Number two, they do not have the mindset of being respectful to law enforcement. And I get it. That doesn't give you a right to harm them, to break their windows, to pull them out at gunpoint, to shoot them in the back. That doesn't give you that right. And so just because somebody says you don't have a right to do this, guess what? I can show you in law where you didn't have a right to pull them over with an emergency light when there was no emergency. A speeding ticket is not emergency. It's a traffic infraction. It is not an emergency. So people, we need to understand and we need to become better at what we're doing. Those emergency lights are for emergencies only. This is why you need to ask the questions to law enforcement and you need to shut your mouth and ask for your attorney. And what was your probable cause for pulling me over? What emergency was taking place? Oh, you were speeding. That's not an emergency. I mean, there's a position that you should put yourself in to entrap the law enforcement officer because they are breaking the law to do what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying we don't need law enforcement. I am not saying I don't want law enforcement. I'm not saying law enforcement are all bad, but we have 1,000+ people a year being killed by law enforcement, and many of those people are unarmed. That's a problem with me. It should be a problem with every single one of you guys. Sorry. Or the If someone has completed the LPP and contributing their Social Security to the foundation, they send a declaration of status and constructive notice to the Social Security Administration. No, you handled it within your docs. Um, I sent a text about covering the ministry and would like to flesh out in the future. I believe it will have similar parallel that his sees where most people don't utilize it. So I'm playing around with some different paths people have covered with their basic essentials. I have the bare bones of it, introduction on a single page, about half a page read. It would be easier to email Kelby at HISadvocates.org. Send it. KELBY at HISadvocates.org. On a dual witness donation, I already asked for a template for the dual witness donation, and it was fairly vague. And I was told it was generally good enough and should just tailor to suit my needs. Correct. However, there was no clarification what elements are essential, if any, to add to the dual witness. So just looking to make sure I'm writing it up. Dual witness and a donation. So you're saying, oh, it's because you're donating your crypto or your assets to the foundation, and we're saying get a dual witness and it notarized. And you're saying you don't understand from a clarity standpoint the elements of what needs to happen in what? That's what I'm missing. So just looking to make sure I'm writing it up and executing the instrument properly. Write it up, post it. I'll take a look, John. Just ask for Kelby's eyes. The house I'm buying is a townhouse in DFW, Texas. And she said she can do the buyer's rep agreements, and we are waiting to finish proof of funds paperwork. Okay. You should get your own representation. I think Godfather sounds great. LOL. Yeah. Could we make personal embassy for the Republic? That's a good question. There's and plates and tech. Yeah, we can make our own passports, guys. This is the thing that nobody has taken the Republic next step with. We re-inhabited the Republic lawfully. Passport machine's about $100,000. Why would we not create our own passports as the United States of America? Because we re-inhabited the United States of America. So the question is what would happen if you did that? And there's a lot of feedback that we're going to get from a lot of different people, especially from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, this, that, and the other. But it would cause probably a Supreme Court issue to make a determination if we, in fact, did lawfully re-inhabit the Republic, and they don't want that. As a matter of fact, let me explain something to you, John. I have seen cases where somebody brought the Republic's name up, and the judge immediately said, cease and desist. That name is a matter of national security, and you will not discuss it here because they do not want a case site brought forward saying the Republic for the United States of America and what it is within a state or federal case. Why? Think about it. It's a matter of national security because they don't want people to know it's been re-inhabited and that we're sitting in our lawful capacity and rights. Now, how do you get your own passports, your own embassy, and your own ability to do it? Well, quite honestly, you need an army, you need everything. You need to be a nation. But we're not at odds with them. We're not at odds. We're just simply saying, hey, we're the interim ready for you guys to come into our fold and to operate through in a de jure capacity, upholding the people's God-given unalienable rights. But then we have to consider that 360 million people haven't conformed and come over into Republic, right? So if 360 million people haven't come over into Republic, you're going to have a body of people in Republic and a body of people in de facto land. And at some point, we're going to be strong enough to stand up on our own. At this point, we are not. At this point, it would be considered a domestic terrorist threat. At this point, it'd be a whole nasty thing. This is why we've structured this saying lawfully and peacefully. Now, how do you get your own passport when they're assuming the name and using the name of the Department of State as if they're the only one? Well, We get our own passport by going through his advocate's passport process as a state citizen. Because the passport's not going to change, right? Unless it says the Republic for the United States of America. That's different. But we adopted lawfully everything in the de jure realm for this great nation, this republic, known as United Lowercase States of America. So there's a lot of questions there, right? And if I can get a passport done as a state citizen right now in the de facto Department of State, which is operating both sides, de jure and de facto, why not just start there? Now, what's the next step? Embassy as what? America? The Republic for the United States of America? Okay, go and figure that out. What does it take to be an embassy? I have never looked at that, but I know the best thing to do to get land private, just like Disney did, you know. Disney figured it out when that little Asian farmer in Anaheim would not give up his land and they couldn't do anything about it because it was patented. Well, if you can't get patented land nowadays, you can get the next best thing, which is fee simple absolute. That's title to the center of the earth. And if you're putting it in the name of the foundation and you're not using the principles of FRNs and you're using meets and bounds and you've vested it properly, you have tenure, absolute tenure and title using a subject name that is unregistered, unrecorded, meaning they don't have access to it. You have Disney World in your own home, meaning you have what Disney World has, because that Japanese farmer taught Disney, hey, wait a minute, I can't eminent domain this turkey through the city of Anaheim. I'm going to go to Disney World in Florida and I'm going to get myself a big patented land mass. Do you know they don't pay property taxes in Disney World? Did you know that they don't pay city, state taxes, anything? Did you know that the cops driving in Disney World have to have permission and are not allowed to pull people over? Not allowed to arrest people unless with permission of Disney World? Did you know that? Proving that if we hold title properly, we have dominion. It proves it. It's not me saying it. It's the way they're holding title. It proves it. You think Congress, remember when de facto Congress said, oh, we're going to destroy the rights of Disney to be able to be in the position that they're in? No, you're not. I told my wife, they're not going to make a move. They're not going to be able to get them to be taxed. There's no way. It's too sound. And I was right. They lost. The state legislature had no power over Disney World. Think about the power of what I just said and the power of what individuals could have with their own private standing in their home, their own private standing jurisdictionally speaking for themselves. If it didn't matter, why change the structure? If it if being a US citizen was so important to be, why change the fact that you were a state citizen as the country was founded? Because the state citizen is the free man under God, self-governed. The US citizen loses all rights. They are an employee to the United States. They are subject to the United States. They are without protections of the Constitution. That's why. And that's why this book is so important to read, because the Supreme Court agrees with Kelby Smith. It actually doesn't agree with me, but it agrees with the things that I believed a long time ago. But we laid it out for you guys in this book. And go get it on Amazon. What does it mean to be an American? Super important. Gift it. You can gift it to your friends and family. You can send a Kindle still for $2.99. Careful, we're breaking budgets. $2.99. You can actually send it as a gift to people, let them read it online, let them digest it and understand that, look, we have this ability to finally stand up and protect our assets and protect our homes, our cars, our children, our own dominion. Why not take it? If it didn't matter, if it doesn't matter, why go through all the work of changing titles, of changing the way that we have babies in hospitals and take the title Make sure the hospital creates the live born record and that the hospital gives the live born record to the state. Make sure that your kid is taken from you through a license called a marriage license instead of holy matrimony under God, private, no license. Making sure, why do they have to do all these scams? If what I'm saying is a lie, why does the Supreme Court say the product, this is what it says for a person that retains a marriage license, the product of the union belongs to the state, all caps state. Think about that. And then I give all the jurisdictional positions of the Supreme Court regarding state citizenship, regarding taxes, regarding everything in that book. And they're shepherdized. They're active today, Supreme Court rulings. If I couldn't do what I said I can do, say I am a non-US citizen, and I'm speaking to law enforcement. If I say I'm a non-US citizen and I make allegiance to the Declaration of Independence and to the state, a body of people, to not, in my position, to not the 1879 state of California, to the 1849 instituted state, go look this up, guys. This isn't me. Is the 1849 Constitution still active law today? Yes. Google that. The answer is yes. Now think about this. Really think about this. If the 1879 Constitution came about, it would nullify, it would get rid of, it would change, it would alter, it would adopt, it would amend, it would whatever the 1849 Constitution. There is no mention of the 1849 Constitution in the 1879 Constitution. That means we have a de jure and a de facto Constitution set up for the people. Period. Why do you think it's so important to capture California? Because there's 1/3 of the country that lives here. Okay. Why do you think you want to get a dumb arse into a position of de facto government in California that's associated to the secret societies that has such a gift of bull crap? He is one of the best gifts of bull crap I've ever seen because they represent 1/3 of this country. New York. Why put a Muslim mayor in power in New York? Because they represent 1/3 of this country. Think about where we are going and think about how important it is for us to just remember who we are and then grab at it now while we still can. Okay? You have protections under the Lieber Code. You have protections under international treaty law. As a U.S. citizen, you have donut. Zero protections. As a matter of fact, your own government labeled you as a enemy combatant and belligerent by adding U.S. citizens to the Federal Trading with the Enemy Act. Think about it. I write about it in the book, and I explain how that was done. Super important that we grab onto this, guys. Super important. Obviously, I'm not selling the book as a profit center, but I want it for people as a knowledge center. And by the way, people are buying, people that want to distribute this book. I've had several people send me $150. If you need to use a credit card, it's $165 because there is no profit in that. We send you 50 books of these that you can pass them out. 50 books for $150. Consider it for yourself. It takes about 20 to 25 days to get them to you. Anyway, the diplomatic immunity guy, he passed. He's passed about 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yep, his name's Richard McDonald. All right, let me look at the last bits of questions. And then I'm gonna cut. Do a witness template. I received an additional line. The witness signatures were signing under the pains, penalties, of perjury. That's not a problem. Pains, penalties, of perjury doesn't matter. That's what courts need to see that there is an attestation of truth been given, and that dual witness and that notary is by far together the necessary requirement to prove the donation was made prior to X, X, and X to a lawfully tax exempt organization. Not only, John, do you get the tax benefits of the deduction of the donation, but you get the benefits of the no capital gains on the other end. Can we make the Department of Republic of the United States of America to issue passports? LOL. Dude, um, we really should bring a Supreme Court action to the United States Supreme Court requesting just that. And bring, I have the records, and so does a lot of other people, for example, but of all the people getting pushbacks from the Department of State who are not wanting to play ball, and yet we get a passport. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Got my 50 books today. Congratulations. Let me know how that's going for you. Amazon sold me 2 books because its platform was confused. Sorry. I want to Visa enter the Republic. I don't know what that means. All right, guys. Look, thank you so much for joining. We're coming up on the holidays. Next Monday, for the record, I will not be here. I'll be here on Thursday. I'll be flying home from the event, so I'll be busy. But plan on a week from this Thursday. The next set of questions, Q&A for you guys to get them answered. So if you guys have any issues, problems, whatever, get your questions posted. We'll do our best to get them answered. But I want to thank you for your time today. I want to thank you for listening. May God bless you. I hope you have a great week.